What's going on? Welcome to the 2021 edition of the Off the Schneid preview series, where I'll be going over all 32 NFL teams, breaking down their roster, schedule, giving you a record prediction, as well as helping out with some betting tips. If this is your first time on the channel, hit that subscribe button, and if you like what you hear, go ahead and smash that like button as well. Don't forget to check the description for links for the Off the Schneid social media and interact with me directly. I want to give a massive shout out to OurLads Scouting Services and OurLads.com, as all roster and depth chart graphics are straight off their site. If you've never been, go check them out immediately. I use their site for all NFL, fantasy, and betting purposes, and there's a link in the description for their site. Again, do me a huge favor and hit that like and subscribe button, but enough of that, let's get to your favorite NFL football preview. Taking a look at the Las Vegas Raiders. We'll start a quarterback, obviously, but I'm going to start by saying I think that if you're a Raiders fan watching this, you're probably going to be upset with me. So get ready. I don't know if you leave some comments and give me your argument for why you think they're going to be a good team. But here we are. We'll start a quarterback like we always do. We got Derek Carr, obviously still with this team. They can move on from him at any time. I don't know if they obviously they don't, and I wouldn't. I do think that he's a good quality quarterback. There's nothing wrong with Derek Carr at all. There's really nothing wrong with Derek Carr, but he is what he is, and you're not going to get any more from him. That's what I think that's what they need to just understand. John Gruden, Greg Olson, you need to understand that he is what he is, and you're not going to get any more out of him. And that's fine, because he's absolutely fine. He's a top 15 quarterback in the league, and you got to do some other things. I don't know. My level of frustration with the Las Vegas Raiders is very high, and it starts with stuff like Nathan Peterman. Why is he on this team? Why does John Gruden love Nathan Peterman so much that he has to keep him around? It just, little things like that are just so silly to me. Marcus Mariota's still there. There's a lot of people that want him to be the quarterback. They want him to be the starter kind of a thing. I'm not one of those people. Not that Mariota can't be a starter in the NFL. He's obviously proved that he can, and he has excelled in certain situations. But I think that Derek Carr is the superior quarterback for this offense. So there you go. He had 30 touchdowns last year. 30 touchdowns as a quarterback, 27 passing, 3 rushing. That's very, very good. That's an underrated number. And he can absolutely do that. But I just think that, you can't ask him to do more. You can't, ask him to, go and gunsling with Patrick Mahomes. You can't. Or Justin Herbert. You can't ask him to do that because he can't. But he can win you ball games if you design your team the right way. And I think they're going to take a step back now with this, which I'll get to. Running backs are in a good spot. I mean, Kenyon Drake comes in to be kind of the 1A, 1B type of thing. I think they're going to try to run the ball a lot more. I just don't think it's going to work out for them. Which I'll get to. Josh Jacobs, obviously still there, 1,000-yard rusher last year, 12 touchdowns, but only 3.9 yards per carry. Devontae Booker's gone. He averaged 4.5, sorry. As your bell cow, you want him to be at least 4.2, 4.4, something like that. And Kenyon Drake wasn't a crazy amount more off the top of my head. I think he was right around there as well. So with what they did, why did you feel the need to just overhaul the offensive line? I don't understand. I'll get there in a second, I guess. Jalen Richard, Theo Riddick's still there. Sure, they're quality, depth guys, pass catching, rotational, change of pace types of guys. Just fine. They obviously have 2 rushers, 2 receivers. I don't know how it's all going to work out. Obviously, Jacobs and Kenyon Drake are going to catch the ball a little bit as well, but regardless, whatever. That's what their running back situation looks like. It's in a good spot. There's nothing wrong with it. Alec Ingold, I really like. I think he's quickly becoming a Kyle Juszczyk type. I think he's very underrated and very good fullback. And if you like fullbacks, I think he's one of the better guys. So there you go. I like Alec Ingold. Tight ends are in a very good spot. Darren Waller, obviously one of the best, top 3 tight ends in the game right now. Foster Moreau and Derek Carrier are both very good. Foster Moreau might be one of the better backups. Derek Carrier can get the job done. They're in a very good spot as far as tight ends are concerned. Shoot over to wide receivers. Obviously, Henry Ruggs has to take that step. I thought that was a bad draft pick just because there was other guys that they could have and should have taken, in my opinion, that were both there. So Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb. I think that, he kind of has to take that step. And I honestly think that he will. I think that there's a very, very good potential that he pushes at least, 900,000 yards, 6 to 8 touchdowns, something like that. I think that he's quality. He's very, very quality. I think Hunter Renfrow in the slot is very underrated. I really like Hunter Renfrow. He is what he is too, and that's fine. He does exactly what they need him to do. Bryan Edwards, third round pick last year. He's got to take a step towards, being that guy. He was obviously hurt a little bit, banged up last year, but he's got to come back and kind of be that guy. They just brought in a bunch of guys that could help out, and that's going to be my narrative about this roster in general. They're just throwing guys at the roster. We're not doing this well. Let's get 6 guys to try to make up for it, and it's just not working. It's just not. And if you're going to sit there and tell me that it is, I guess put a mean comment do whatever you want, but it's just a fact. It's not working. And to me, it's coming down to coaching. If I'm being, that's all you can really look at. You know what I mean? We'll continue to get there. And this is a narrative that's going to come up throughout this whole roster breakdown. John Brown, throw him at it. Oh man, we're struggling on offense with our wide receivers. Let's get John Brown. Let's get Willie Snead, they can both get the job done, and I don't mind those guys at all. And they did need to replace, Nelson Aguilar is obviously gone to the Patriots. They did need to replace him, but this is exactly kind of what I'm getting at. You lose Nelson Aguilar. Let's get 2 guys to replace him. Let's get John Brown and Willie Snead to replace Nelson Aguilar. Obviously, I know that they do different things. I'm not saying they're going to fit the exact mold of what they did with Aguilar, but just in general, that's what I'm saying. Oh, we lost a receiver. Let's get 2, It's just, I just don't like the way that they're building out this roster. I did last year, and I don't hate what they're doing, I suppose. But, if it's not working, then either you need to look at your coaching staff, or I guess your general manager. Like Mike Mayock is obviously the general manager here. John Gruden's the head coach. Somebody's not doing their job right. And if you ask me, it's the coaching staff. So there you go. Move over to the offensive line. Like I alluded to, I'm really not sure why you felt the need to completely blow up your offensive line, which is it was in a very good spot. They were top 10 in the league in sacks allowed last year, and they have 1 returning starter on this offensive line, or maybe 2. Richie Incognito, Colton Miller realistically is the guy that is a difference maker on this offensive line. Sure, he's their most important spot, left tackle, but they completely blew it up. They bring in Alex Leatherwood, that was a second round, should have been a second round pick. They just are going to plunk him in the right side and say, hey, you're going to be the guy now. Cool. Good luck. They don't really have a ton of depth. I don't mind John Simpson. I think that there's a very good potential that John Simpson could be a starter on this team. Brandon Parker is there for depth as well, sure. But, for continuity, it just doesn't make any sense. And that was a bit of a point of strength last year for them, and that's going to absolutely become a weakness, in my opinion, this year. So then we'll move to the defensive side of the ball. They don't get after the quarterback last year, right? They're bottom 5, 21 sacks last year. They don't get after the quarterback. Okay, so what are we going to do? Let's bring in Yannick Ngakoue, Solomon Thomas, Malcolm Kuntz. Let's bring in a ton of guys and just throw guys at this team, at this defense, and hope that they work out. It just hasn't been working out with what they had last year. Somehow Carl Nassib is now buried on this team. He was a double-digit sack guy when they signed him. They signed him with this big lucrative contract after he was double-digit sacks with the Bucs, comes into the Raiders, and now all of a sudden he's just buried on this defense. Like, he's a very quality player, in my opinion. You don't get double-digit sacks in the NFL and then just fall apart. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Even like Max Crosby took a huge step back. Cleveland Farrell, who was a guy that they reached for 4th overall, that just hasn't gotten there yet. yeah, Yannick Ngakoue has underachieved for the last, year, 2 years, sort of a thing. That's kind of, I'm just, just throw a ton of guys at it and hope that the coaching staff can figure them out and we can excel and succeed. It's just not happening. So I'm looking at the coaching staff. Move towards the back end. Nick Morrow, Nick Kwiatkowski, Corey Littleton, all quality, and they're all probably going to be playing every down. So then you go, oh, Divine Diablo, we need in the third round. Let's bring him in to play linebacker. This sort of hybrid role that's emerging in the NFL where it's, a linebacker safety type of hybrid role. Let's get him in there. They already had that guy last year with Tanner Muse, who's still on the team, obviously, a third-round pick last year. You see my frustration here? Like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to just throw guys. Like, why would you not take that third-round pick for Divine Diablo, that third-round pick with Malcolm Kuntz, and draft some offensive linemen? Some interior linemen. You already invested in your offensive line with Alex Leatherwood, which in my opinion was not the greatest pick. But in those third rounds, there was a lot of interior linemen and even, guys that you could move in, like that played tackle that you can move interior. Richie Incognito is like 40 years old. I know he can still do what he can do, but it just doesn't make sense to me. Move back some more. We got Trayvon Mullen, and here's what here's what Mike Mayock does with his defense too. It's like, oh, you play for a big school, you play for Clemson, Ohio State, first round pick. So Trayvon Mullen's there. He's got to take that step. Damon Arnett, he's got to take that step. Bring in Casey Hayward, bring in Rasul Douglas. We struggle against the pass. Let's bring in all these guys. Let's bring in 4 guys and hope that they can do well. I like Amik Robertson, Nevin Lawson's still there. I like a lot of these guys. Jonathan Abrams now healthy. I really like him. Trevin Moehrig was a fantastic draft pick. That was their best draft pick by a large margin, in my opinion. Carl Joseph is still there as well. They have tons of pieces, but they're not winning. So what's the problem? It's clearly coaching, in my opinion. That's how, I have no other way of looking at this team and judging them. There's no other way to look at it besides it's the coaching staff. And I really like Gus Bradley. I'm a fan of Gus Bradley, but the proof is in the pudding. And if I were American, I'd be from Missouri. I'd be from the show me state. This team needs to show me something, and they haven't. Last year was their best year at 8-8, 7-9, 8-8. And I honestly see them pulling back, to be perfectly honest with you. A lot of it has to do with the division that they're in. That's a tough division, but realistically, they blew up something that was a reasonable, strength for this team. I think the running game is going to struggle. You can't just let's just bring in Kenyon Drake and our running game will be better. It just doesn't make sense. I just don't like the way that they're doing things. So that was a bit of a rant, and I'm sure some Vegas Raider fans, are not happy with me, but it is what it is. And tell me I'm wrong, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Tell me I'm wrong. So leave a hateful comment, I guess. Tell me I'm wrong, but it is what it is. And until they show me something, I'm not going to change my stance on the Raiders. So let's see what I pick for them to do record-wise in 2021. All right, there you see it, Raider fans. Leave your comments now. 6-11. I just do not. I think they pull back, from where they were. I think there's a very good potential that they pull back record-wise. And then, in my opinion, what you do, you're going to have to overhaul this coaching staff. I'm not going to let Mike Mayock off the hook either. I'm a huge Mike Mayock fan and supporter, but, his drafts have just not been very good. And I don't think any Raiders, I was giving them the benefit of the doubt. 2 years ago, last year. Well, actually I stopped last year because I can't give you the benefit of the doubt anymore. It's not working. What you're doing is not working. Coaching wise, GM wise. So do you overhaul the whole thing? I don't know, but I think something's going to change after this year unless they do, other than what I'm projecting. I think the realistic top that they could do is 9-8, realistically. I just do not think that they can be much more than barely a winning team, 500 team, you know what I mean? Like I have on the high 8-9 here. I think that if things go very, very poorly for this team, you know, on the low side, they're cleaning house on the whole front office and coaching staff. If they're 6-11, you know, 7-10, something like that, I think Mike Mayock might be able to keep his job, but I think you gotta overhaul that coaching staff. There's no other way to look at it. If you keep throwing all these talented players at this coaching staff and they're not succeeding and they're doing nothing with it, you have to look at them and say you're not doing the job. That's that. 17-1 on your money to win this division. It is absolutely not going to happen. They are the worst team in this division, in my opinion. It's 17-1 for a reason, you know? Like, it's absolutely the only thing that's, you know, wrong here is I think the Chargers are better than the Broncos. I think they're the number 2 team, but the Raiders are absolutely the worst team in this division. Sorry, it's just what it is. So let's go through the schedule here. Week 1 at home, it's going to be a rockin' stadium. Vegas fans in general are pretty wild fans. Look at the Golden Knights. They immediately became Stanley Cup contenders. You know, those fans are crazy. They've been craving professional sports for a long time, and now they have it. And they're absolutely going to be rabid. Don't get me wrong. Monday night game to open the season. I think that the Baltimore Ravens come into Vegas and get that win. They're just a better team overall. So that's what's going to happen, in my opinion. Week 2 on the road against Pittsburgh Steelers. Even though it's on the road, I give the Raiders a better chance to win that game than in week 1 against the Ravens. I think it's a winnable game, and I think it's one that they can get, just because I think the Steelers do struggle this year. I absolutely do. I think these teams are very, very similar, if I'm being honest with you, but the Raiders defense should be a bunch better than the Steelers defense. But, you know, again, like, if you didn't hear the whole rant in the roster breakdown, then there you go. Like, they should be the better team defensively. At home against the Miami Dolphins, that's a very, very tough game. It's a winnable game. It is a winnable game, but the Dolphins defense is a ton, you know, better, because I've seen it. I've seen the Dolphins be a very, very good defensive team. The Raiders have all the pieces in the world, but they're just not doing it. So there you go. On the road against the Chargers, I think the Chargers sweep this team. I just think that they're too good offensively, and if I have to take a guy in a gunfight between Justin Herbert and Derek Carr, I'm taking Justin Herbert every single day. So there you go. At home against the Chicago Bears. That's another winnable game, considering I believe that Justin Fields is going to be the starter 100% by then. You know, by week 5, I think he's 100% the starter. He should be from week 1, so we'll see. So that's a winnable game, and one that they should get, especially at home. But it's going to be relatively tough. That offensive line is going to struggle, in my opinion, and the defensive line for and the pass rushers for the Bears are pretty reasonable. So we'll see how it shakes out, but I think the Raiders should get that win. On the road against the Denver Broncos, they play each other tough, so I'll give them a split. I'll give the Raiders a split here, because, you know, Drew Lock is similar to Derek Carr in a lot of ways. So I would take a home and home split here. So they lose that game against the Denver Broncos. At home against the Philadelphia Eagles, very winnable game, one that I do think that they get at home, especially. Again, you know, it's not going to be a rollover, and if that defense doesn't play the way that, you know, it's been built, then there's potential that the Eagles can come in and steal that win. But I'm giving the Raiders the win there. By week 8, sure, whatever. It doesn't really matter to me, because I do not expect the Raiders to be a playoff team regardless, so I don't particularly care. Coming out of the bye on the road against the New York Giants, I think that the Giants get that win. I just think they're a better team overall. Very, very similar as well. Very similar, and being built in similar ways, except for that Giants defense is performing. That offense, again, built the same way. Just throw a bunch of weapons at Daniel Jones and hope that he's the guy. So it's very similar in that regard, but I think that the Giants get that win. At home against the Chiefs, they are not beating the Chiefs this year. They're not. So the Chiefs are a better team. They're one of the best teams in the league. They are absolutely going to sweep the Raiders, in my opinion. At home against the Cincinnati Bengals, very winnable game at home. My Cincinnati Bengals, I'm not going to say that the Bengals are going to come into Vegas and get that win. It's going to be a tough game. I think that they're very comparable. I think the Bengals are better offensively. Defenses are comparable, but again, until the Raiders show me that they are a good defense, I'm not going to believe them. I don't care who's on the roster. I love that. I love the Raiders defensive roster. I absolutely do. I swear to you, it might not sound like it, but I do. But they're just not getting there. They're just not performing. So until they do, I'm not just gonna give it to them. So that's a tough game. On the road against the Dallas Cowboys, short week, Thursday night game. Cowboys get that win. At home against the Washington football team. Washington football team's defense is just too good. And that offense can score on this defense from what I've seen. So I think that the football team comes in and gets that win. On the road against the Kansas City Chiefs, even less of a chance of winning that game. So they take the loss there. On the road against the Browns, they're not beating the Browns, especially in Cleveland. At home against the Broncos, I'll go ahead and give them the split there. I'll give them the split, a home and home against the Broncos. On the road against the Indianapolis Colts, I like the Colts to get that win at home. They're a better team overall. They get that win. Finish out the season at home against the Chargers. I think they have a better shot there. But I think these two teams will be going in different directions, and the Chargers get that win in Vegas. So there you go. I was pretty high on the Raiders last year. They kind of broke my heart because they just didn't perform the way that they should, the way that they've been built. And until they do, I'm not going to give it to them. So I've stood up for Mike Mayock. That bit me. I've stood up for this team. That bit me. I'm not doing it until they show me that they can. So that's just what it is for me. Let me know what you think in the comments. But there's your breakdown for the 2021 Las Vegas Raiders.